And the meeting is now open for the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Donna from Oregon, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I've heard people say that they don't think going to church is necessary in order to be a good person and to lead a good life. That may be true for some, but it isn't common sense. It's like a person who loves to pursue knowledge but stands in the middle of the library and won't read any of the information that's in the books that others have discovered and are willing to share. When you belong to the Plainfield Christian Science Church, you're exposed to all the knowledge and self-discoveries that the other members have found. You're constantly learning their viewpoints, often interpretations that never occurred to you when reading the textbook by Mary Baker Eddy and other writings. We've all heard the expression that there's strength in numbers. There's a lot of strength in uniting our minds like we do. The problem with not attending church is that we're taking in, maybe unaware, all the influences that movies, TV, news, etc. have on us with nothing to counteract it. Attending church constantly supplies our minds with the right ideas, the things that are truly important. I consider myself extremely blessed to be a member of this church, which has taught me, with the help of my wonderful practitioner, to keep my thoughts on God at all times, something I wouldn't think to do if I didn't attend church. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I am very grateful that God has brought me to this church and for all I have learned here. Week after week, I gain fresh understanding and insights and healings that have really turned my life around. Part of my work for the church involves editing some of the audio recordings that the readers are producing. In the course of doing this for the past years, it has been a deeply rewarding experience to listen diligently to small parts of these books at a time. I think that if I hadn't been doing this, I would have developed more of a habit to speed through the readings and not retain as much. These books all contain so much information and instruction, it would be a shame to miss any of it. It's so wonderful to always see that God really knows what he's doing. I'm grateful to this church for all that they produce and how they continue to be a light in my life. What a blessing it is to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
610344.
Okay, someone is calling in from area code 610, and your phone number starts with 344. Can you please announce yourself and then go ahead with your testimony?
Yes, thank you. This is Barbara. Lately, I've been especially grateful for the audios of writings on the Plainfield Internet site. Some are complete and some in process. Recently, I listened to Unity of Good by Mrs. Eddy, which is exceptionally well read, making the meaning shine through more clearly. Thank you, Plainfield, and thank you, God, for Plainfield.
Thank you. Colleen from Massachusetts, go ahead.
Good evening. Tonight I'd like to give thanks for the Bible lessons. I just love our Bible lessons. To me, it sort of launches me out on a Sunday night. I read it for the first time, and then every morning I really look forward to getting up in the morning and reading the Bible lesson. And it just sets my day, and I can think about it. And sometimes I can listen to it again on audio. So by the time Sunday rolls around and we have the Sunday service with all the music and the little bells, which are so beautiful, and the hymns and the singing, it just makes it amplified to me. And I've already read it and I understand it, so it just becomes so moving to me, and I just learn so much, and I'm so appreciative of everything. And tonight the readings, thank you, Elizabeth, also so touching. It made mean so much. I'm just so grateful to everything that I'm learning here at this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Eaglet from Florida. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. First, thank you so much for those beautiful readings. I was touched by some of the verses. I am new to Plainfield. I was doing some web searching this summer, and I tripped over the website, and I was very impressed. I grew up on some of the writings from Bignell Young and Martha Wilcox, and I was thrilled to find that they were being made available to anyone who is seeking. And I was further pleased by my experience when I called one of the practitioners. I have a property in Pennsylvania, and I can only be there for a few months every summer, and because of that, I have to do an awful lot of work in a short period of time, and sometimes I kind of let my spiritual studies kind of droop a little. And on this property, there's a 5-acre lake with a lot of geese, and I love them, and I buy duck chow and feed them, and they're kind of my friends. And one day this past summer, I noticed that one of the geese had a problem with its eye. It looked like some sort of injury. And the geese aren't particularly nice to each other. They ostracize anyone that's sick or injured. And this particular goose had some sort of stain running down its body as if there was some sort of discharge from the injured eye. And I knew there was an immediate need and that I wasn't spiritually prepared to deal with this. So I decided to check out Plainfield and see if they were the real deal. So I called a practitioner and I asked her for help. And she was very gracious and said she would help me and dug right in. The next day, the geese were up on the property again, and this particular injured goose was still ostracized, but that stain down its body was completely gone, and it still appeared to have some evidence of eye injury, but it was significantly better, and I was, having been a lifelong Christian Scientist, I was shocked at how quickly and immediately this evidence had changed from just one day's worth of work. So I asked her for another day's worth of prayer, which she graciously gave me. And the next day, this goose was nowhere to be found. It was just, I guess it was just back in the flock. I couldn't find any goose with any kind of eye injury, and no goose was being ostracized. So it was a very quick and effective healing. And to me, that said, Plainfield's the real deal, guys. You know, this is the place to be. And so I'm thrilled to be able to share this testimony, and I'm thrilled to be able to visit the Plainfield website and to reread some of the things that I was exposed to as a child, and also discover new things that I was not exposed to that I am loving and learning from. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig.
I love the energy that the organ is played with. It just runs right through me. And the readings were really touching and inspiring. It's great to found my purpose in life here. Just this morning, I was, well, first of all, if you've been healed in Christian Science, you are always healed, and you always have it at hand if you ever have to face something or someone else has to face it again. Well, some time ago, I had a stomach and bodily problem. A practitioner in this church had healed me, and they healed me by teaching me. Told me several statements. One was, no gastric gas accumulates, no secretion except through the action of mortal mind. And I stuck with it. I was pretty new in the learning Christian Science then, but I kept thinking through it, and it just made so much sense, and I saw the effect of it. And also was told at the same time on page 413, line 7, mind regulates the condition of the bowels, stomach, bowels, and food. The temperature of children and men, and matter does not. Well, more and more this morning I was getting a stomach ache and was having gas, and it was just about to puke. And I remember these statements, and it, like a shutting off a valve, it just stopped it. everything just cleared up so quickly. I'm so grateful that I have been taught these statements, and that yes, it's God working, it's not me, and they always will work. It's just a great thing to have these treasures that God gave through Mary Baker Eddy.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings and the music tonight. I'm very grateful tonight for the lessons I am learning here about loving all mankind. Part of this process has been learning about God and His creation. Recently, I was talking with a Plainfield practitioner. At one point, she said to pray for all God's children, but it was with such tender kindness. This feeling carried over into my day. It helped wash away many labels of limitation I had been unconsciously giving to others. Holding that feeling and seeing these people as loved by their Father, Mother, God helped me to soften hardness in my heart, let go of negative expectations, and instead see God's children. And for that I'm very grateful, and I have been using this continually, especially when I find a situation where I'm reacting. I'm very grateful for all I'm learning here about God and His creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
I want to count my blessings since coming here to Plainfield. By attending this church, reading our textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, and getting practitioner help, I have quite a few blessings to count, like sheep when I go to sleep every night. When I came here, I felt like a broken man, stricken with a disease of the morals. I was dishonest, certainly, and had no moral courage of any kind. I had no job, and have since found a good one. I had a big, bad debt hanging over my head. It somehow got forgiven in time. I had writer's block for a long time, and recently completed my first book. I was facing a divorce action for a year. Then my wife decided to keep me around. My marriage was saved. In Webster's 1828 dictionary, to heal is defined as a verb, means to grow sound, to return to a sound state. So I guess you could say I have been healed of a lot of things. I have been blessed by God and owe the Father, Mother, God a debt of gratitude. God willing, I will never stop being grateful for these things and many more things to come. All these things, let's call them goodies, have been added to my life because of Christian Science. I have been steadfast, loyal, and true to the teachings of Mary Baker Eddy in our textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. That broken man I mentioned before, where did he go? That broken man with no plan and no God. Well, I looked around one day and he was gone. I'm learning that mortal mind, or the devil, is a clever enemy. I can't sleep on my laurels. We are engaged in a kind of mental warfare against whatever mortal mind can throw at us. One hymn we sing here is Onward, Christian Soldiers. I have learned here how to fight the good fight, and for that I am grateful. I'll close with the last two verses of a poem by William Blake, Jerusalem. Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem. and England's green and pleasant land. And you might substitute the word England, you might substitute for that word Plainfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin.
I'm very happy to be here tonight. I really mixed this place in the last couple of weeks. Today has been a blessing to me, in particular, because I had the opportunity today to share a space with somebody who is of different faith. But both of us came from Africa. He's from Egypt. And we started talking, and he's a Muslim too. And as we were talking, he shared his faith with me, and I shared my faith with him. Then he started asking me questions. What is different between my faith and the other Christians? I was happy to share with him. I wasn't really interested about sharing about other religions because I don't know much about the other religion, but I know about my religion, where I belong to. And what was interesting about it was the way he perceived himself, how he was being seen by other faiths. But I was happy to share with him that in our religion, in Christian Science, we don't see him as such. We see him as a child of God. But he wanted me to explain to him what that means. Then God was happy. I think it was God who was helping me to explain to him. But I told him, starting from the beginning of our church, the founder of the church, I shared the name with him. I asked him if he can Google the name and read about her. That when she was introducing this religion to us, she never preached about religion. I didn't know too much about her, I told him, but I know quite a few facts about her. I have read a lot of her books, her writings. I never see where she preached religion, just like Jesus Christ. I told him, Jesus never preached religion, and Mrs. Sadie never preached religion. Both of them preached about God. And they preach about God as God for all, who loved all his children. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Then he wanted to know about heaven. I shared with him, I asked me if I can share a story from the Bible with him. He said, go ahead. Then I shared the story of Lazarus and the rich man. I told him that Jesus usually used stories we call in the Bible parables. He doesn't understand what that means. But that's a story teaching that Jesus used quite often to teach to his followers. I showed the story of Barnabas, how the rich man made his own hell through his evil ways and his ignorance of God. And also Lazarus, how Lazarus made his own heaven by following the law of God and being obedient to God to the end. The distinction was very clear to him. Because in their religion, Muslim, they have different teaching going on right now. Many of them believe they can make heaven by killing other people, by causing injuries or death, or doing all kinds of evil things, which we have seen. And I told him, well, that's not the truth. You can only make heaven by doing good. It doesn't matter what religion you belong to. And God doesn't see religion. God sees what you are doing. And he was receptive to that. And he said nobody has ever taught him that, even though he may not be a Christian tomorrow. But it was interesting to hear that people who preach about God instead of religion, that they don't see difference. I said, no, we don't see difference. And anybody that sees different is not a Christian. Because the founder of Christianity, Christ Jesus, never saw different. I'm very happy to God and grateful to him for the opportunity that he gave me. I hope what I shared with the young man can have impact in his life, and he can go on and live his life as a better man. Even if he's not a Christian, but he can live his life as a child of God and be a blessing to all mankind. It doesn't matter where he goes or where he belongs to. Thank you.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to express my deep gratitude to Plainfield. My history is that I always heard about my great-grandmother who became a Christian Scientist. And she did so because she had been, as a child, her family were in national politics, her father was, and they were living outside of Philadelphia. And he was burned in effigy. At the time of the Civil War, people came out, a crowd came out to where his house was on the Delaware River and burned him in effigy. And the next day, they had to flee to the South. And because he was from Virginia. But they refugeed all the way to Alabama. But my great-grandmother was a child. And when she was grown and had children, she began to have anxiety attacks, really severe attacks. She would fall on the floor. She was terribly upset. It seemed to be the result of the experience she had had when she was a child. And a doctor, a cousin of hers, said, Priscilla, you should try this new religion, Christian Science. You should try to find out about that. Well, she did, and she became a lifelong Christian Scientist. In her much later years, as an older person, she became a practitioner. But none of my family became Christian Scientists after that. But when I was alone in Washington, I mean alone in the sense that I had no milieu here. We were from, both my husband and I were from other places. We had no family support. We were trying to raise our only child. And so at some point, I went into the Christian Science Church. And once I read Science and Health, I knew it was the answer to life. And I went through class instruction and everything. But eventually I fell into a terrible depression, and mine was because I really couldn't use Christian Science. I'd been to 2 or 3 different Christian Science churches, and I had a practitioner who was not, seemed a little judgmental toward me. I just wasn't making it. Well, Plainfield's the real deal, as another testifier said tonight. And I kept looking. While I was really very depressed, I kept looking on the Internet about Christian Science. And I came across the wonderful website, and I'll never get over how grateful I am to be here. And thank you for the beautiful readings on Our Father.
Thank you. Dede from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. In the Science and Health section of this week's Bible lesson, it says, quote, "To begin rightly is to end rightly." To me, this speaks to one of the most valuable lessons I've learned in this church, to begin all things with God. I've learned to go to God first with pure motives in all situations, to acknowledge His omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence, and to ask with a sincere heart that His will alone be done. For the past month, I've been going through an application and interview process for promotion at work. I was strongly encouraged by upper management to apply, and though I was unsure if I should, I was able to go to what I now know, to ask God. I've been praying all along the way for guidance step by step, asking for God to give me only what He wants from me and to put me only where He wants me to be in order to bless. Though I've been faced with negative suggestions and some deterring opinions from a couple of people along the way, I've been able to work through it all by praying with everything I have and doing my best to trust it all to God. This has been a much-needed and most beneficial growth process for me. I'm to learn the final decision at work at the end of this week, and I'm so grateful for the peace and confidence that I have in knowing that because I began by going to my Father and Creator, who knows what is best for me, the end result will be only what it should be. And I'm satisfied with that. I'm so grateful for every single thing that I'm learning in this church that is teaching me the way to live with God. I'm so grateful for all we have here, for tonight's meeting, the readings, and the testimonies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
Thank you. Very grateful today for Christian Science and for practitioner help. Another dental issue came up this week, and it was this time it looked like as if a temporary that had just been put in had been broken. I called a practitioner from this church to ask for help, which was given. She said to keep myself in the secret place of the Most High and to text her when finished with the appointment and the outcome. The appointment was the next day, and I was able to work with this thought and to do some reading before leaving for the appointment. At the appointment, as soon as the technician took a look, she said, "I can fix this easily." And with that, she went to work and was done in less than half an hour. And on top of that, there was no charge. I was so happy. This was God working. I was able to text the good news to the practitioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gary.
I am so grateful for everything I've learned here and also for the many healings I have experienced here. I think what makes Plainfield the real deal, as was mentioned earlier, is the tremendous love that its members have for the science of Christianity, and also the tremendous gratitude that they have for Mary Baker Eddy for giving us this science and for persevering through a tremendous amount of persecution and suffering to bring this science to the world. It was a few years ago, I was thinking of the many blessings I've had. It was a few years ago that I woke up one morning with a severe pain in my mouth. I was able to make an emergency visit to my dentist that morning, who said, well, you've got an infected wisdom tooth. And he recommended that I get it taken out as soon as I could, because until I got it taken out, I would be in extreme pain. So that morning, after that dental appointment, I called a practitioner in this church who was the real deal. And I was met with a tremendous amount of love. And I was told that God never made anything that could poison any of his children, that this was impossible, that God made us perfect, and he keeps us perfect in his love. And I was also told that nothing could infect the perfection of God and his man. Well, when I hung up from the practitioner, I felt the love of God enfolding me. I just felt this tremendous love, and the pain began to subside shortly thereafter. That day, I spent all day working in and around the church. We had a lot of projects going on that day. And I was able to do everything that was needed for me to do. That night, I slept like a baby without any pain whatsoever. And in the morning, the pain was entirely gone and never returned. This is one of many healings I have had in Christian Science, for which I am eternally grateful. I'm grateful for the help of that practitioner and for the great love with which her help was given. And I'm so grateful for Mary Baker Eddy for giving us this science. So great to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
I have an email to read tonight from Australia, someone new. She writes, I belong to a small society of Christian scientists in Australia. I found your website the other day and have not had time to look properly through it all the good things that you offer. I have, however, listened to a couple of roundtable discussions and love, all in caps, love them. Thank you so much for putting these on YouTube so that they are easily accessible. I found these inspirational and helpful talks while I was suffering from something not from God and was not in any state to do my usual study. What a wonderful resource. Thank you for all the wonderful people who take part and their deep thought, their sense of humor, and their naturalness in being recorded. It is much appreciated, and I look forward to hearing more. Please pass this on to all who make this possible. I, for one, am deeply grateful. Love and blessings. And then from Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. Have I said how grateful I am for you and the church and its members? There are not deep enough and large enough words. A life and purpose changed in infinite ways for good. So grateful to all. Yours truly, and see you in April. This is from Virginia, from our bulletin board. Thank you for Sunday's February 18th Dynamic Roundtable. Thank you for sharing missionary Terry Mize's powerful experience, which can be found on the YouTube, of bearing witness to and demonstrating the power of God. This and the other experiences related in the roundtable show when we are prepared and have on our armor, the truth imbibed in our consciousness, then no evil can come nigh our dwelling. As it said in the lesson on soul from Proverbs, quote, whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. End quote. Thank you for the readings tonight, the beautiful readings about and comforting about our Father, Mother, God, and no child of his is ever lost. And I'm so grateful that we can pray this and know this and send out our love and comfort to those who might be mourning. And to also pray and know that all those in government, legislature, they will make wise decisions as to how to best protect our children in the human way, in the common sense way. Of course, we know that the only true security, as we talked about this weekend at the roundtable, is from our dear Father, Mother, God, who does love every one of his children, and no one is ever lost to him. During the week, I was asked by a few people about prayers. In our church, we were taught prayers to give our children to say to themselves, and also prayers that we would pray as parents or aunts or uncles or friends for our children. And it's highly important. We can never underestimate the power of deep and sincere prayer to God. I know as a child going to school, it was before my family had come into Christian Science, I was very, very often very anxious about going to school. And in those days, my mother didn't know enough to teach me prayers. So I'm so grateful for these prayers we've been given. And certainly the first would be the Lord's Prayer. But there's also a few others. And one, and this is, we were taught to give our children before they leave for school in the morning. And it's a familiar one. It's number 6, verses 24 to 26. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. There's really no better way to start the morning than that. And then also this prayer we taught our children. It's from Science and Health on page 248, where Mrs. Eddy says, let unselfishness, goodness, mercy, justice, health, holiness, love, the kingdom of heaven reign within us, and sin, disease, and death will diminish until they finally disappear. And then finally, a beautiful prayer, and this is from Bicknell Young, his book 1937 College, page 2. And this is a prayer I would pray and still do pray. And Bicknell Young says that a divine idea, that can be your child, or it can be other things too, your church, your business. A divine idea carries within itself the power to accomplish the divine purpose, and the responsibility of its unfoldment belongs to divine principle, who cares for each detail of its progressive being. These are all powerful, comforting prayers that we can say for our children, for each other. It's the truth of our being, and as we think about it and know that God is with each and every one of his creation, it gives a deep sense of peace and, yes, security and comfort. I'm so deeply grateful for Christian Science, for dear Mrs. Eddy, for all that we are learning in this church, and to be with you all tonight. And thank you again for those readings.
Thank you.